Chapter 5 CVN 77 Part 4 of 5. Crimson looked at the distance between the bush and Benghazi. "You're not suggesting for us to fly all the way out there, are you? Could we even make it there in 2 hours?" He shook his head. "That would not be the best use of your skill set. I'm keeping you in reserve for when we need a repeat of the biolab. But before I go any further into the briefing, I need to ask." He directed his attention to Alexia and Crimson. "Are you two going to be able to avoid repeating the same crash as last time? The desert was one thing, but anywhere else might have caused compromising injury." Anderson gave Toon an apologetic look. "I'll do my best to avoid a repeat, sir. Although I never expected to have to do that in the first place." Mercer had to give her that much and accepted it as he turned to hear Alexia speak. "I have been negligent in my flight training. I'll begin shoring that up immediately." It wasn't what Mercer wanted to hear from Thompson's top field agents. "Don't go too overboard with the regimen. I need you able to deploy at a moment's notice." "Yes, sir," Toon replied. Mercer clicked to have the map vanish. "While I don't wish to cut into said training time, I did as you requested and had the Red Pegasus brought to the brig on the bush instead of being shipped back to the States for interrogation. I trust you have some way of getting some information out of her. But I don't recall interrogation techniques being on your list of training." Alexia hummed in thought. "I might have a unique form of persuasion. She's still missing a cutie mark, right?" Mercer was unaware of Alexia's alicorn magic and furrowed his brow while looking at the red mare's picture. "Yes. But what does that have to do with anything?" Toon adjusted her necklace, which had gotten out of alignment. "If it works, I'll tell you." He wanted more of an answer than that, but Thompson insisted they were to be fully trusted. "Very well. I'll leave the matter in your hands. Just keep me apprised on your progress." "Yes, sir." The briefing ended shortly thereafter, and Toon left for the brig. Conrad heard the two Earthmares were going to the central recreation room before he ran after Alexia. He waited until they were well and clear of the briefing room before talking to her. He feared Toon might lose her temper again. "Are you sure you should be facing her again? Last time you nearly skewered her." The memory flashed back in her mind. The anger, the rage, her red-rimmed vision. The nameless Pegasus begging for her life. Had her mates not intervened, the alicorn would have killed her on the spot. "I don't want to be that person," she answered with a sad smile. "This is as much for my sake, as it is for hers. Just remember, she won't know it was you who captured her." "I remember." She stopped walking and nuzzled him affectionately. "Thanks for looking after me." Conrad didn't care if any passing sailors noticed them and wrapped his wings around her. "I love you, Alex, and we always will," he tousled her alpha colors with a wing for emphasis. "You're not the only one who can help fight off lunacy." She smiled at his touch. "But it might be difficult to tell the difference between lunacy and PMS." "Ack! Shut up." She slapped the laughing stallion with her right wing, only to have him duck out of the way. "And I do not PMS that bad. Say that to the kitchen counter." "We had to replace the granite slab after that," he said while letting her wing hit his face after the second attempt. "Yeah, well," she huffed while trying to let her anger go. "Damn it. This was exactly the sort of thing I needed to be able to ignore or laugh at rather than get angry." The brown Pegasus was glad to see Alexia begin her breathing exercises. He feared Toon losing her temper more than any bodily harm she might inflict. Even so, the intensity of the outburst troubled him. "If she does that to me, I don't think she's ready to speak with the prisoner. Glad to see you're staying on your toes." The azure-crowned pony let out her fourth exhale slowly as her emotions calmed down. "We don't have toes, remember." She kept her expression forcibly neutral, if only to hide her lingering irritation. "Anyway, go tease Loki about this sort of thing. I need to speak with our potential informant." Conrad's tone switched from playful mockery to serious. "Can you do me a favor and try to keep a cool head? I can come with you if you want. She stepped into an empty briefing room to her right to let a few passing sailors walk by with Conrad following her in so they could have some privacy. Alexia closed her eyes and rested her head on the side of the stallion's neck. She took the moment to take comfort in his touch, scent, and warmth. Conrad, she began after a minute of basking in his presence. You, Loki, and Crimson are my rock and my heart. She looked at the azure stripe in his mane with reaffirmed adoration. My life and soul belong with all of you. And I wouldn't wish it to be any other way. Conrad was sensing a but in her words and he pulled his head back and cupped her head in his hooves with a worried look upon her pained expression. Alexia, I'm not dead. Stop mourning over a grave that isn't there yet. His words hit the mark and the silver mare's strong facade broke down completely and she started quietly sobbing. The Pegasus wrapped his forelegs and wings around her shaking form. You're killing yourself by dwelling on this all the time. Please, Alex, enjoy the life we'll have together and leave the future where it belongs and return to the present. Conrad tried his best to shield her from the pain in her mind, and cursed himself for only being able to give advice. She wept for a few long minutes to get everything from her lingering fear of a lonely future, the sickening experiments from the desert laboratory, and the stresses of royalty out of her system. The quivering princess had her face buried in the stallion's neck, soaking him with her tears to the point where his fur was becoming uncomfortably damp. He endured it quietly and without complaint while rubbing her mane with a fetlock in an attempt to ease her through it. Alexia leaned against his strength and used it to build herself back up again. Conrad, she said shakily while keeping her muzzle buried in his fur. I want to enjoy our time in this world together, I really do. But one day that time will end, and I'll be alone. I need to relearn how to be alone and happy at the same time like how I was when I was human, or at least content. He hugged her tightly. You're not thinking of leaving the herd, are you? She pulled her head back so she could be eye to eye with him. No, I could never do that. It would kill me to do that. But the opposite is true too. Her gaze lowered along with her voice. If any of you died, I don't think I could ever recover. That's why I need to relearn how to be alone. So that when the inevitable happens, it won't destroy me. That's the mare I love. She wants to work towards a solution rather than wallow in depression. He knew the alpha standing next to him wouldn't drag her hooves for long. Is there any way I or the mares can help you? Thank you for the offer, Connie. She leaned forward and kissed him. He turned it around and returned the gesture with lusting passion before she could decline his offer. It surprised her, but Alexia felt it was exactly what she needed. Had it been at any other time, Toon would have let him ravage her until she couldn't walk right. Yet the interrogation hung in the back of her mind, and kept her from letting their passions take them to their usual conclusions. That didn't stop her from thoroughly enjoying his affection for a few minutes. Yet when the time came that Alexia felt that she needed to pull away to get the interrogation, she stopped. Mercer only said I have to get it done today, and what the hell, I've never had sex on an aircraft carrier before. Hold on a moment, Connie. Toon's horn lit up and they were teleported back to their quarters. There, now we won't get interrupted by anyone. The brown stallion recovered from the teleport quickly enough and saw the amorous mare turn around and present herself to him. You always know how to cheer me up. The Pegasus saw her hungry eyes fall upon his stiff member. He gazed upon her lustfully. Believe me, honey, I love cheering you up. Asterisk. 2 hours, a second shower, and a preening session later, Alexia made her way over to the brig. As with the rest of the ship, the jail was so cramped that it would give just about anyone claustrophobia. Even more so for a frightened prisoner of war. Alexia thought to herself as she reached the warden's desk. She used her magic to straighten out a few strands of hair that had fallen over her eyes. The jailer was a bored, yet vigilant, craggy-looking marine. The small desk bore little paperwork, but the man was still glad to have a distraction, even if he showed none of it in his face as he saw the Alicorn approach. He had been informed of her visit, but he was a stickler for protocol. State your name, purpose, and give me verification of your identity. Why would I need to show ID? Doesn't my coloring and cutie mark right, the camouflage enchantments? Fortunately, Mercer had given the directive that each agent carry their identification with them at all times while on board the bush. Using her magic, she unzipped her black satchel and gave him her CIA badge. Unlike her human counterparts, her cutie mark was emblazoned on the bottom right side instead of a handwritten signature. Special Agent Toon. I'm here to speak with the prisoner. He inspected the badge briefly before giving it back and marking her arrival in his book. He took her nearly emotionless tone as a euphemism for rough questioning. Everything checks out. Your interrogation shouldn't be that difficult. She's been whimpering in solitary since she was brought in by the 82nd. Has she been treated poorly? He gave her a questioning look at her gruff tone. She may or may not have suffered some bruises or a hairline fracture or two in getting here. Most likely when she had to be subdued, no doubt. Course, she reeked of piss until one of the guards let her have a shower. Don't know what makes her so special seeing how all the other personnel were executed on the spot. What? Why? Toon would have voiced those questions, but her status as an intelligence operative kept her from doing so. She needed to appear as if it was old news to her. I'm going to have a word with Mercer about this. I know command is starting to tighten up on rations, but I didn't think we were so bad off we'd resort to war crimes. Alexia barely kept her shock hidden under a thin veneer of indifference. She's an experiment, nothing more. Sure she is, though it was obviously there. Alexia couldn't detect any sarcasm in his voice. He stood up and jangled his keys to find the right one. This way. End of Part 4.